A leader.
When it comes to leaders, I think the one I want to talk about is Ma Yun.
Alright, so here we have a slightly different introduction. When it comes to leaders, I think the one I want to talk about is Ma Yun. When it comes to is better used in the middle of your talk when you want to change topic and identify specific points. Don't use it to introduce the topic. So we have a different introduction. I wouldn't say it's better than the ones we had before. Don't say when it comes to introduce your topic.
CEO of Alibaba Group. Alibaba is the world's largest online marketplace for global trade.
When we have a proper noun, like in this case Alibaba, followed by a noun like group, then we need the article the. So it should be CEO of the Alibaba Group.
Every time I mention him, I can always remember the words he said in a TV interview, which is called Win in China. Ma Yun is definitely one of the most legendary figures in this whole industry. He has been running his own business for many years. In that TV interview, the MC asked him,
let's just talk a little bit about coherence, especially if you're not a very strong speaker. In the test, you might be nervous. This script we're listening to now, of course, someone is reading it. It's not actually somebody talking. So it's quite different from real exam conditions. In the real exam condition, your mind might be all over the place. You might be thinking of what you're going to say next. You're going to be nervous. You're going to be stumbling over your words, perhaps. So it's best to finish the topic that you started instead of jumping all over the place. So here they start talking about the interview, which is called Win in China, but then they kind of talk and then start talking about how Ma Yun is a legendary figure. He's been running his own business, and then they get back to the TV interview. I wouldn't recommend that. If you're going to start talking about the TV interview, continue that idea. Because if you introduce ideas in between what you're saying about this idea, the examiner might not follow exactly what you're saying, especially if you're not expressing yourself very clearly, which often happens in the test. So stick to one idea, finish that idea, and then move on to the next idea. And then also, the person asking the questions is not an MC, he's an interviewer. An MC is somebody who hosts some event. If you ask questions during an interview, you're an interviewer.
Obviously, you are remarkably successful now. So is there anything you would like to say to the people who want to run their own business? Ma Yun smiled and said, for starters, I am afraid that I am not up to the successful remark. And to my experiences of these years, I think the world is brutal today, even more brutal tomorrow, and wonderful the day after. But most guys would die by tomorrow night, and never see the sunshine the day after tomorrow.
Alright, so this is supposed to be a quote. I don't know who can possibly remember a quote word for word sometime after you saw it on TV. Anyway, so it's a quote. I don't think it's a real quote, but the quote itself doesn't exactly make sense. For starters, I'm afraid that I'm not up to the successful remark. What does it mean not to be up to a remark? And to my experience of these years. Do they mean, and as for my experience of these years? Possibly. Now the rest about the world being brutal today and even more brutal tomorrow, yeah, I can kind of understand that. But the beginning, no, what's he trying to say?
That is to say, once you have a dream, just go for it. Never give it up easily. Your dream might not come true in one day or two, but it will someday. Those ones who stick to their last are the real winners. Seriously, I learned a lot from these words. He is my idol, and I hope that I can become such a successful person like him someday.
And then we finish with this unfortunate sentence, he's my idol and I hope that I can become such a successful person like him someday. So instead what they wanted to say, I guess, is he's my idol and I hope that I can become as successful as he is someday. Or he's my idol and I hope that I can become a successful business person or successful person like him one day. But in either case, we don't need the such. And I just noticed that there's a point I wanted to make that I forgot to mention earlier, where he said those ones who stick to their last are the real winners. Sticking to your last doesn't mean what they think it means. Sticking to your last means to do what you are best at doing. So, for example, let's say you are an engineer. That means you shouldn't try to go take up a career as a singer because you're probably not going to be good at it. So you should stick to what you are good at, or you should stick to what you know. Sticking to your last doesn't mean sticking to your dream or sticking to what you're doing. It doesn't mean to have persistence. So they got the meaning of this a little bit wrong. Although I guess if you listen to it, you might still be able to guess what they mean, but they did get it wrong.